G'day everyone, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, co-founder and CEO of Aureus Financial.
Sam Panetta, COO and co-founder of Aureus Financial.
And welcome to our first Ask Aureus Anything question and answer live event.
Said, I'm self-employed, why is it so hard to get the banks to lend me money? It's a tricky question to answer. There's a few reasons, and it's not because banks are adverse lending money to people that are self-employed. That's a fallacy. That's not true. We have many clients that are self-employed, and they have very significant amounts of lending with multiple banks. They've built huge property portfolios. They have lending in their business. They've got heaps of business finance. So it's not that it's hard to get the banks to lend you money, but the rules are a little bit trickier. I guess the big thing, let's compare it to someone who's PAYG. There's a handful of banks out there that if you go and you get a new job and you get one pay slip, the banks will base their borrowing capacity on that one pay slip, and off you go, you'll get the loan. On the flip side, when you're self-employed, typically banks want to see 2 years full financials before they work out how much you're actually earning, and will lend you money based on that. You got to think, guys, when you're in business, and anyone who's in business will understand this, it's not the money doesn't come in, the revenue doesn't come in every single month like your pay slip does, right? It's lumpy, it goes up and down, your expenses fluctuate. So to get a really good, and you're growing as well, all right? So, business in January, they can be making a lot more in December than they were making in January. So you need to step back and the banks need to take a longer term view of how the business is performing and how it's growing over a period of a couple years. Some banks will use 1 year's financials, very few, but there are a couple. Some will do low docs, but they don't really exist much in Australia, and they're really expensive, and they've got a lot of rules around them, so most people steer away from low doc loans. Some banks are even more stricter. They want to see 3 years, they want explanations, letters from accountants, things like that, but they're rare as well. I think a common problem that I see with business owners and why they struggle to get the amount of finance that they want is because they earn X amount of revenue and they're really good at making money, right? So they're really good at earning revenue, but they put every single expense on the world through the business because they don't want to pay the tax man nothing. So by the end of the year, the business has hardly made a profit because the owners of the business just pump all the expenses through and look, they succeeded in their goal, they're going to pay bugger all tax. But the bank looks at them, picks them up and goes, well, mate, you've got a big mortgage, you've got 4 kids and a wife, and your business makes 20 grand a year, we're not going to lend you any more money. And you look at that from the bank's perspective, they think that the business turns over a lot of money, but you don't really put anything in your pocket. So that is probably the one single biggest factor that limits self-employed or business owners in their borrowing capacity. We're aiming to change that, actually. That's where we're doing a lot of accounting work, because for businesses to grow, spend the money on the tax, earn the money, earn the big profits, pay the tax man, and then go borrow money, buy property and grow your wealth that way. So there's more than one way to go about it. The other big thing, and it's something that's becoming more and more relevant, is lining yourself up with business bankers. So any good finance guy will have connections with all the business banking units in the big banks of Australia, and they should be able to match you up with a business banker who's not only going to help you grow your business, they're going to help you understand your business, and they're going to be a little bit more lenient when it comes time to lending and the sort of rules they can apply. So this is something that your typical mortgage broker, they're not going to tell you about, because they essentially lose a little bit of control over the client. But if you've got a really good relationship and you understand someone intimately, you can get, there's a few other avenues to go down. So don't throw your hat in the ring if you're self-employed and just suggest that the banks are never going to lend you money, because it's not true.
Yeah, I think your first point was the most important one, mate. And it actually goes back to the first question around the structures. You either pay the tax now or you pay the tax later. And I prefer to pay the tax now, and I'm thankful every time I get a tax bill, and I hope I have to pay more money to the tax man every single time, because it means I'm making money. And it also means that I can borrow more, which allows me to continue to build my wealth through property and essentially continue to build an empire behind me. So then when I get to my later years, I can optimize my tax when I no longer need to use borrowed money in order to build my wealth. So you need to look at it objectively across everything. If you're minimizing your tax, you're likely minimizing your opportunities that you have to continue to scale your wealth as well.
Comes back to having a plan.
Yep.
You need a strategy, you need an end goal.
Yep.